little Lou. He's hungry. He's gonna be in. He's gonna be in the shot, isn't he? That's right. Lou, do you want to stand in the middle or here? Waffy, Waffy.
Waffy, come sit here.
Do you want some treats?
Come sit here.
Come.
Sit here.
Here we are. Well, lie down. Lie down. Or just smell my tea. Okay, welcome to our second podcast ever. Hopefully the first one. I feel like we went on a bit of a tangent on the last one, but in a good way.
Yeah, it was a little bit here, a little bit there.
So I think this one will bring some structure, if you can see me behind the cat. Just a bit about who you are, your life, what you've learnt.
So I was born and raised around Newham, Stratford sort of area.
Yeah.
And I lived there with my father until I was about 7, around the Upton Park area.
Yeah.
My father unfortunately passed away when I was 7 years old. And then my mum decided to make the move a little bit further in the Essex sort of area, around Ilford.
So when you were 7, and just for people that don't know, like what did he pass away from? Was it like an illness?
Obviously, I've got amazing fun memories of my father. I think for my brother, where he was a little bit older at the time, it was probably a little bit harder for him. But yeah, my father passed away from hepatitis C. He went to Pakistan to visit some family, and yeah, he caught the illness there, and he came back to London. I remember my mum saying, I think the doctors actually said that he's got like a couple of years to live, and then within I think about 6 weeks or so, it just started to get worse and worse.
Do you remember it at that time? Like, do you have memories of your dad?
I do, yeah.
I always think, because I lost my mum at 18, 19, and I've got that memory bank, but at 7, I just...
Yeah, it's quite an odd feeling. It's like, and when you think about it, it's quite strange in that sense, because now when I look back and I think about my life, like obviously the first person I think about would be my mum, because obviously I've got fond memories of my father, but I think there wasn't as much perhaps meaning around it. It was just more of like, how would you describe it?
Do you like remember moments like days out, or like certain things, or maybe when you got told off, or do you know, or is it more? Do you have a remembrance of who he was as a person, or is it quite hard to think that deep?
It's a bit of both. You get a bit of both. Obviously, my father was like a super caring, lovely person, amazing family person, always spent time to take us out. I remember on the weekends, he'd always spend time with me and my brother. But yeah, I do have really fond memories of him. I think my brother more because he had more time with him. But then also at the same time, when my father passed away, maybe my brother struggled with it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was 7, when that happened, my mum, I think, was pretty much in that bit of a panic mode. You've got now 2 children that you need to raise single-handedly. So she decided that she really wanted to just get out of the area and start afresh, which I didn't really understand at the time. You just go with the flow.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, having my own child, and I just honestly, it's commendable how she where she got to. My mum has super strong work ethic in terms of dedication, of just always being there, making sure she's on time, making sure she's completing what she needs to do, and really ultimately being the breadwinner of the house.
What does she do for work? I mean, but just...
Yeah, so interestingly enough, a little bit cross-related with what I do now. She worked in property, but for the council.
Okay, yeah.
For Newham Council, so she worked more in like tenant property management.
Yeah.
So mainly, actually, quite a lot of complaints. So I would hear like when we would go to perhaps meet her after work or collect her after work, her days were quite choppy. There were some people that maybe are quite ungrateful.
I feel like you're being polite, choppy.
But yeah, she's been a very hard worker, like very hard work ethic in that sense. And honestly, really commend what she's done to get me and my brother to where we are today. It is incredible, because I could imagine, God forbid, I lost you and then I had to bring up Zara single-handedly. That's just one child. Like, how do you do it?
And work as well. Yeah, it's wild.
It's amazing. But at the same time, obviously, maybe I didn't not see my mum as much, but she's pretty much working all the time. I understand now, paying for the mortgage, putting food on the table, extracurricular activities.
Yeah, you don't know that.
School trips, that sort of stuff. But now, when you go through that process yourself, you're like, wait a minute, that's pretty nuts. Absolutely incredible. A role model in that aspect. More when growing up, like being perhaps a little bit more entrepreneurial now, I remember there were little phases in my life where I would say to my mum, I want to do this, I want to do that, and she'll be like, no, be a doctor. The stereotypical thing from like a sort of a Pakistani Asian family, where you're like, oh, be a lawyer, do this, oh, get a job, be safe, be secure, be secure. Which honestly is amazing advice, and obviously there's a place for people in that in society.
Do you feel like you rebelled against that, or did you just not hear it? How did you digest it?
I think I was inspired a lot from my brother.
Yeah.
Because he's very entrepreneurial mindset. Just go for it, do it, work it out as you're going along. And maybe I was a little bit more reserved. But then maybe looking at what he did, he was very out there and would just try new things, or maybe diversify into something else.
Just
he
sort
wasn't
of
too
do
scared
now,
of,
think later kind of thing.
Yeah, but he wasn't scared of trying different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really also look up to my brother in that aspect. But yeah, what did you say?
I forgot now. About, I don't know, but I was just going to go into something whereby, like, I just remember your mum always speaks of your dad really fondly, and there's a memory that she always shares about, like, how his, like, shoes are falling apart, but he'd still just want to be with you guys. And I just thought that was just so lovely. He didn't really care about.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, he cared. I get where you're coming from. He also made himself look like $1 million, although he may not have had it.
Yeah.
So he'd also try to just be the best appearance, do the best for his family.
Yeah.
But all day long, such a family person.
He put his family first. That's what I mean.
110%. And I remember, I think my mum said something to my father which may have shaken him off a little bit, or she spoke to him in a certain way. And I remember my mum telling me, as I grew up a little bit older, he came back and he said, "Oh, imagine if I spoke to you that way, how would you feel?" And it was about, and she was like, "Oh my God," because sometimes you don't realise what you're saying
in the heat of the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. We can get angry. Relationships can be testing at certain times. But he was a very calm, composed person. I think that a lot of that has, not although I've seen a lot of it through my father, but I would say that I'm quite calm, collected in that regard, not like the sort of hot-headed person acting in haste or anger. That's developed throughout the years. I would say at the beginning of our business, things would trigger me a lot. Little things that weren't right in the way that I wanted them to be, but I've learned to be quite content with things, and things might not always go the way that you want them to go, but as long as you're pushing and striving,
c'est la vie, isn't it?
That's the way life is. But then yeah, my mum moved out to Ilford, which changed drastically in the last 15 years. Really quite liked the area. Moved to a new school, so that was quite daunting. I remember leaving my primary school and then joining another school in the Goodmays, Seven Kings area, and that was quite tough for the first few months, but then you fit in, you mould in, you find new friends, and then you almost forget a little bit about the other school, and then you transition into this new life. And then before you know it, you're in secondary school, which was a big jump. But yeah, I think in secondary school, in my first couple of years, I picked up golf. Interestingly, I used to play quite a lot of cricket in primary school.
Did like people at your school do golf?
And actually, there was one person. So I went to a driving range once. Just on a random one with my brother and I think one of my cousins, and yeah, just felt like I had a bit of a feel for it. It was just quite a nice feeling, and then started to develop that a little bit further. Progressed in golf quite nicely. Also met some really good people, some good connects. But that was more my sort of not escape, but escape in a way, because I did like school, but I didn't love it. I wasn't the most academically smart. I would do pretty average, but that's where my heart was. And I could literally spend 4 or 5 days on the golf course easily, in the cold, come rain, come shine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And obviously that crosses over a little bit with, obviously you did the ballet stuff, which you was quite dedicated with. So that was lovely. And then channeled into following the sort of normal process of going into college. Didn't really love it.
You did more of golf though. You became. I always call you like a little semi-pro, but I don't know if that's.
I did pretty well for my age at the time. Yeah, did a little bit of sponsorship. Went into that was my dream to become a golfer, and there was a sort of cut-off point where it's like you really got to go for it. And then I think there was a point where I struggled maybe a little bit mentally with it, so I felt like I had a good enough ability, but then you would just carry on just beating yourself in your head.
Did you have a mentor at that time?
I did like some sports psychology stuff, which helped a little bit, but it would have been, then sometimes I think about also some of the people around me. There were like father figures with people, a lot of families. I felt not like a lone ranger, but very independent, and golf is quite an independent game in itself. But I just rolled with it. But it would have been nice maybe at that time to have someone like a bit more of a father figure that could help support me through having a little bit more confidence with it.
How much would you say it's like a mental game over a...
Huge.
Yeah.
Usually, I would say it's...
Really?
Yeah, you can pick up a good technique, get it around the golf course. And there's a lot of golfers out there would know you might hit 1 or 2 bad shots, eat yourself in your head, and then literally the rest of your round can go if you're not sort of just going with the flow.
So you've got to have that training mentally almost, don't you?
Yeah, 110%. I would say a lot of it is a mental sort of side of golf. You can have the technique and the ability, and then a lot of it is going to be in your head, so you can really chew yourself up, or you can
just
empower yourself. And
do you think, as we spoke about it in our last podcast about regulating your emotions, do you think that sort of crosses over with that mental thing of like just not eating yourself up and going rah?
Yeah, I used to play golf with some people, actually one of my really good friends, and like he was mental, honestly. Yeah.
Mental,
he would hit a bad golf shot, he would snap a golf club, chuck it in a pond. Different people have different ways of doing it. Yeah. And yeah, I wasn't like that, but I was more eating myself up in my own head a little bit. But yeah, you see some of the best elite golfers in the world, they'll stand there on Sunday, the 4th day of the tournament, maybe 1 or 2 shots behind the lead, and they're so composed. If you look at today, Scotty Scheffler, if people know about him, is just like in the lead, just cruising, won't just change his personality, super cool.
Yeah.
But I think there was a golfer recently who was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, you will be nervous over golf shots. You might be even nervous in just say evaluation, different parts of your life.
Yeah.
But what you need to remember is that, yeah, you might be nervous, but you've been in that situation before and you smashed it. So that's what you need to think about. The nerves are just part of the situation that you're in. But if you remember about your past events and where you've been successful and how you've been successful, that's what you then need to channel into and bring that into that situation that you're in now.
Yeah, it's like feeling the fear and like just doing it anyway.
Yeah, I've had the same evaluations, done like hundreds of evaluations, and then maybe you're going to evaluation, you're feeling a bit like, oh, because there's this anticipation of what's going to happen, what's the vendor going to be like, what's the property like, what's this, but then you just bring it back to, wait a minute, you've got like a really good conversion rate.
It's just your habitual.
It's working. People are drawn to you. You do a good job. You offer an excellent service. So those are the things that you need to go on.
Yeah.
I think as a cold start running a business, and then not having that, you can sometimes maybe doubt yourself because you haven't got something to benchmark it against.
What do they call it? Imposter syndrome.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you might not have something to benchmark it against. So anything you do in life, whether it's going to the gym, sport, whatever the habit or whatever hobby you have, always think about the positive things and not the negative things. And then anything that does happen negatively, try to work on it, improve on it. We do that from a personal development, business, sports, whatever it is.
I think that's such good advice for all aspects of life, because sometimes we focus on the things we're good at, and that's great, but sometimes to make you even better and excel and elevate you in business or sport or whatever it may be, you need to work on those things that you're not so good at, and sometimes we don't like working on those things, do we? But
exactly, yeah.
We need to bring those to the table.
I listened to someone say the other day is that you need to be comfortable doing the uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to go into a new zone, and then you just improve your skills all around, really.
Yeah.
It's even from a golf aspect, some people might just want to stand on the driving range smashing 300-yard drives, and then around the green it might take them like 4 or 5 shots to get it in the hole. So it's like working on your weaknesses and not always just on your strengths, or what you really like doing.
Yeah. Being
comfortable doing the things that you're uncomfortable doing.
Yeah. I'm just going to check that this is recording, because I would hate that this isn't recording.
Yeah.
Let me check. Yeah, it is. Sorry. There we go.
So where were we? And then I went on from college to university. Yeah, studied. So in my mind I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to be a professional golfer. Okay, fair enough. What we're going to do now?
What did you make that decision? You clearly went into something else, but what was that?
Yeah, it was a transition between going from college to university. I probably wasn't at the level where I should have been with some of my peers. A lot of people dropped out at that point. A lot of people going into work had different ideas. Yeah, I had just playing in, for example, just say the Premiership. Like everyone wants to play in the Premiership, right? But then there's X amount of people that might get in it. It's literally the elite of the elite.
It's just sifting out all the
exactly
amateurs from the pros.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So.
And that's when you realise that.
Yeah, so that's when I realised that, okay, I probably actually need to make some money now. This is the other part of life, right? You need to fight for yourself, defend for yourself in that way. See what my mum done, was inspired by my brother and other people around me.
Yeah.
My idea was, why don't I go into what looks like people earn a lot of money. Oh, investment banking, great. So yeah, let's do an economics degree.
Is that literally your train of thought?
Literally, yeah. There were some people around me in school that were like leaning towards that way as well, going from college to university.
Yeah.
And speaking about the sort of stuff, and I was like, oh, trader, that sounds good. I've seen some of these films. Oh, they earn loads of money. Is that
I don't think
it
Wolf of Wall Street was out then when we were kids, were they? But that
I don't know if that would have turned me off or at the time actually.
True.
But and then I went so I decided to study economics and then transition into some sort of banking field, some sort of banking job at the time.
Plan.
That would have been my plan. I was in university 4 months, 5 months, and then at month 6 I was thinking this isn't quite right, something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But all in all, to be honest, hand on my heart, even the first few months weren't great in terms of did I really enjoy it? Didn't really like the academic side. Like the party side, like the fun side, meeting new people, great, going out every other day, fun, spending your student loan within a matter of weeks. Yeah. All that stuff is the stuff that a student goes through.
Yeah.
It was a laugh, but I didn't really see like a lot of longevity in it. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my passion, so I was struggling with myself inside. But like sitting in lectures for 3-4 hours.
Do you think you were just floating through because that was like just what you did? You'd go to uni, get a degree, and then...
Yeah, because it's what the norm is, it's what people do.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, did I really want to go to university? Probably not.
Yeah,
but
you just
it's
didn't
what
know what the other
everyone
options
does.
are, right? Yeah.
It's what my mum wanted. Sometimes you're living your parents' dream. And that's one thing I've realised that with having Zara as well, is that not to live my life through her. Her life is separate to mine, and to help and support her in what she wants to do.
She might not want to do what you want her to do.
Exactly,
and that's okay. And that, I don't know, it might be quite hard to separate at that time, but you just have to trust that you've taught them what you've taught, and then they can make their own decisions.
Exactly.
And I think by giving someone the baton, like children, they need to learn that for themselves, don't they?
Exactly. No, said. So yeah, and then...
So you dropped out?
Yeah, month 6 dropped out. Looking back on it, I was a bit like, oh, is this the right thing to do? There was a bit of hesitation, but now looking back on it, going into the sort of work life of it, it was a blessing. It was a blessing that I did leave at month 6, and I didn't fulfil the rest of the degree because it wasn't something that I really enjoyed doing. And there's so many people that graduated, some of my friends, after how many years, and they were like maybe doing a degree in, say, engineering and then becoming something in marketing. There was a lot of like disparity sometimes because people do change over time.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes. Okay, you need to study this and then you'll become this, and you might not always know that at such a young age. So
I don't disregard university.
No,
I wouldn't say don't go to university. Society requires specialists. If you want to become a doctor, it's not something you're going to just self-train yourself, right?
No.
If you're going to become a specialist within a certain field, for example, a lawyer, what have you, you need those skills and expertise, and you need to be educated correctly to obviously do the job. Yeah, and then I think after that I was in a bit of a panic stage. One of my best friends, he runs a car site with his dad in Essex, quite a successful car company. So I reached out to him. I used to play a lot of golf with him, and I was like, you know what, actually,
I'll be a car salesman.
I can't work with you.
Yeah.
He was like, fine, come in for an interview, got a job. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah,
How so?
It was so tough, yeah. Because coming from, I wouldn't say I was the most extrovert person.
Yeah.
Coming from like the background of golf, it's a relatively independent game. You can just grind it out by yourself a little bit.
But that said, I feel, just going on a little tangent, I feel like you are introvert. You're an introvert extrovert, or an extrovert introvert. That's the one. Because there's elements of you that you've got this thing where people are drawn to you. I feel like. Do you know what I mean? You've got that charisma. That's what I'm saying.
Love that.
And I think maybe that's when it started to come out of it.
Yeah, working at the car site it really built my character in terms of, okay, crap, this is now the world. Like, this is actually how people operate. This is how you've got to perhaps do a sale. This is how businesses work. This is how people bring on stock to their business. So I saw all angles of it, obviously working quite closely with my friend, and they've been running their business for many years.
And what did you do? What was your role?
So I was a car salesman. I worked there for about a year or so.
What does that mean? Like, you're just behind a desk and making phone calls, or what does that look like?
So there was about 5 or 6 salespeople, literally just selling cars to people that are coming through the gate.
Outside?
Yeah, I learned through a colleague called James, and he helped me so much. He was incredible at selling cars. He would sell like 35 cars a month.
Wow, how do you do that?
Literally like a rocket. So he taught me a lot. People would come into the car site, and he goes, everyone will come to the car site and say they're just browsing, but they're not. They're here to buy a car. Yeah. This is what I realised. Sometimes if you just take people for what they say, sometimes you need to get into them, get closer to them, warm them up, understand their personality type, why they're here, befriend them, and really give them what they want.
Find out what they're after.
People know what they want. Like when you come in to buy a car, you know in your head roughly what type of car you're looking to buy, whether it's an automatic, what colour it is,
what type?
Yeah, the amount of mileage it has, the sort of price range you're looking in. People have an idea. It ain't just by accident that you're in this car site. It ain't just by accident you're in Foot Locker looking for a pair of trainers.
It ain't just by accident.
But yeah, he really taught me a lot, and he developed that rhino skin a lot earlier on in my life. Then that helped me a lot through.
What, does people say no, you mean?
Yeah, so many people say no, but you just ignore that and
don't take that for an answer and just be like
carry
no.
on going through. And it is a numbers game. The more people you speak to, the more people you can take out for a test drive, the more people you can have those relationships, build rapport with.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first started, for some reason I had this habit of saying to everyone, oh, to be honest, this is this. To be honest, this is it. To be honest, this is this. I don't know why. And it makes you so not credible. And they were like, you need to beat that out of yourself, because that makes you look crap, to be honest.
Is that what James said?
Yeah. They
by
train
saying
me a lot.
To be honest, you're
almost
trying
implying that you're, you're lying maybe.
But it's your nervousness probably that you're just like filling space.
Exactly.
We do it all the time in our podcast probably.
And that was an interesting time. So I worked there for about a year, and then my brother was working in property, so I thought, oh, why don't I maybe have a look at something in property, something a bit different. And then I worked for an estate agency in Canary Wharf. I really quite liked it. Very fast-paced environment, different because you're obviously showing different types of apartments, quite a different spin on it. But also it had the same sort of characteristics in terms of the process. So I worked for Chase Evans, who recently were actually sold to a private equity firm. They had about 6 or 7 branches now.
Yeah.
So they did very well. They worked predominantly within the new build market, so investors from China, Singapore, the Asia market, that sort of thing. But they invest solely in new builds, so selling new builds off plan from the beginning, doing expos in Asia, getting various investors over. They had an office in Hong Kong, Singapore, but a completely different market to what we're in today. And they've run a pretty successful business out of it. But yeah, they were very hard working, a good company to work for, definitely to get your feet.
What do you think you learnt there?
I learned that the process was very similar in terms of, I think a lot of sales jobs have the qualification process, because how can you sell something to someone without having to qualify them? So I learned that very early on within the car industry. Yeah. And they were very big on that, because if you don't know what someone wants, if like you're just going to give them a random car and then everything's just a waste of time after that. Yeah. But it also shows that you're listening, you're hearing people out, and you're really trying to get them.
You're not wasting their time, essentially.
Exactly, and your time as well, because ultimately you have got just say 7 or 8 hours to fill in a certain amount of customers. If you're not doing it correctly, you're doing yourself a disservice, and also the customers. To work there for a little while, crossed it over a little bit with a family business, an estate agency, a small company that I was working alongside my brother with at a point. And then I decided to go. I felt like I wanted a little bit more corporate experience. So I went a little bit bigger in the corporate sort of side of it, and worked for probably the agency that had the biggest market share at the time. So I worked at Foxtons. That was a very good experience. It's quite a cutthroat sort of environment, quite hard on the sales, very target driven. They've obviously done successful within their own field in property in London. Worked with some really good people, learned some amazing things at that company. I think I was sitting there at one point in maybe, I think it was 2017 to 2018. I was like, wait a minute, I've got now 6 years experience, or 5-6 years experience in an estate agency. I really like the gist of this. There might be something that I can do in it myself. But then,
I remember we had that conversation. I was working at Royal Mail at the time. You were like, I just feel like I want to do this myself. And I was like, you know what?
Exactly. I was coming home, I don't know if frustrated the word, but yeah, I felt like a little bit of a plateau in terms of where you can go. Obviously there are like ways to get promoted within these bigger companies, but I just wanted to do something with my own flavour, and at the age of, I think it's 27, 28, I think you were also working at some other corporates, but in a different sort of field. You did a little bit at Goldman Sachs, right? And then you did a bit at Royal Mail for one of the directors.
We'll go into my side of things maybe on another podcast. But yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting, and then with that slight, not frustration, but also wanted to do something a little bit different.
I guess it's just having the freedom to do things how you want to do it, not always.
And I was thinking, if I was going to run an estate agency, obviously they've done very successful in their own right, but I wouldn't want it to be like this. I would want...
In terms of like the environment?
Yeah, but also in terms of the customer care to people. I didn't want, because it's quite a highly target-driven environment, I didn't want just people to feel like numbers. I wanted to have a bit more of a feel to the transaction than just transaction to transaction, trade to trade, money to money.
Yeah. I think it's just having, I always say it, like it's just, we're all human, like houses don't sell or rent themselves, people buy from people, and if you can make people feel comfortable, reassured and guided, I think adding just love into what you do, love and care.
And look, people always love what you do, but you genuinely really have to love what you do.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it goes so far. There's so many clients nowadays that give us feedback about...
Is that what you felt was missing in corporate environments? Just love?
Not just that, but you're also sectioned to just one part. You don't really get an overview on the whole business
landscape of it,
and that's something I wanted to do because I really like to challenge myself, and laying it up from the ground up would have been a great achievement for me. And I remember telling my mum that I'm going to leave Foxtons, and she was like, but why? Why would you do that? Which I can see from her background in the
risk,
the sense
isn't
of
it?
security,
it's calculated
all that sort
risk,
of stuff. But thank God, like now, year 7 almost into the business. Was one of the best decisions that I made. The first, obviously, 3 years were
it was a graft.
Quite a struggle. Literally, like my head was in like Turnpike Lane at 1 minute, and then I had to be in London Bridge.
I know.
And then in Notting Hill, and then
we didn't have enough cars, so then I was getting Ubers to. But this was before line bikes, so if line bikes were back then, I would have so got a line bike everywhere. I remember just grafting it because we had £0 in the bank. Like we started with nothing,
literally,
and we just. I think that coupled with our synergy of just come on, let's just go and do it. I think I wouldn't start a business up like that again. I don't think.
I remember we started in a WeWork, right, in Old Street
initially, and then after COVID, we were in our living room. We were here.
I remember there was so many teething issues. You think, set up an estate agency. Oh, great, just get a website, do this, do that, get on the phone, do that.
There's
to the office, you've got no blimmin' phone reception on your mobile. Having to move to another one, a complaint over here. Not registering for certain accreditations at certain times. There were so many moving parts.
Getting a client account was a whole hullabaloo as well.
That becomes that slight entrepreneurial mindset. I remember when Sally was saying, she was like, the entrepreneurs would just be like literally just in the moment now, and they're like, okay, what do I got to do now? Okay, I got to fix that. Okay, fix that. Okay, where's a firework now?
And we were doing that. We were just putting out fires,
and slowly creating a bit of a database, getting still a lot of repeat business. A lot of customers were coming back to us.
Yeah.
I think in 2017, around 2018, there was quite a big change in the property industry where agents were quite heavily reliant upon, I think we were able to charge, there was a tenant fee ban. So that didn't affect us as much because we just started. We'd never known. Yeah. It was pretty much on a cold start, so we just went on from there. But there's so many areas that we needed to adapt in. But then I think it was me and you for quite a while. Then one of my really good friends came to work with us.
Dov, yeah.
He was with us for about 3.5 years.
He started in our living room as well, didn't
he?
He lived in Isle of Dogs, didn't he?
Yeah, and he would come on a scooter.
And he'd get on an electric scooter and come all the way here.
Great guy. Yeah. So he worked with us for about 3.5 years, helped grow our business to where it was today.
I think I've got some photos of that time I was going through, so maybe I'll get just whilst we're talking.
I remember we'd be sitting here. And then Dov would be doing his work, and then Waffy would just come in the corner.
Our cat,
I'm trying to eat his lunch.
Like he did the skinning, he'd just be like there, like literally no personal space, and Dov would just be like, I'm eating my food. Leave me alone. So I've got loads of photos of those moments.
And then and then I think in the last, probably about 3 years ago, we really shifted our mindset quite a bit in terms of starting to grow it. Realised that we can't do everything ourselves.
Delegate, letting go.
Yeah, learning a lot from the companies that we worked at, starting to delegate, employing people, but employing the correct people. The interview process, even that was quite painstaking at the beginning. starting to refine that process a little bit, getting the right candidates to come in. But one of the biggest successes to our business is ensuring that you're employing having the right people
in the right seats.
You can have one person doing 3 people's job, but doing it correctly. If you're getting that right person that really loves what they do, and really starting to optimise things inside the business,
streamlining things with processes and software. Like I'm a bit of a process queen. Like I'll love a standard operating procedure, an SOP. That is my thing for growth.
I would say we're not like self-taught in the sense that we listen to audibles. There's a great book called The Success Principles.
Yeah, and there's what's that? There's so many that we've got on Audible that we've read. We'll probably have to link them.
There's one that I'm reading at the moment called My Personal MBA, talking about the differences of obviously going to do an MBA at a university, and there's quite a successful author that done his own one.
Yeah.
And the differences of maybe this.
Sorry, Waff might have just moved the camera. Waffy, stop it! Get on the table. Sorry, he's like doing this on the camera tripod, so we might get a bit of a shift there. Sorry. Waffy, stop it. Come here, let me get him. Waffy, come here. Go on, you can continue, Faz. I'll just grab this cat.
And yeah, within probably the last 3-4 years we've learnt the most. The business has been at its best it's ever been. Year on year we're growing. Turnover's increased quite significantly from when we first started, and now there's 9 of us now, right?
Yeah, we've got
10 of us almost,
6 to 7, maybe hiring one now, an extra one.
Including us, that would probably take us to 9, 10. But yeah, we've recently actually just hired for an assistant lettings manager position. That would absorb a lot of what I'm doing in the letting side of the business.
So you can focus a bit more on the business rather than in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes get pulled in, don't we? But
sometimes we don't have no time to think. Even having moments like this where we're able to step away from the office, such a blessing.
Yeah.
To have amazing skilled people within our office that are still being able to run
and elevating people. I think one thing that I really want to take into 2025 is, and I mean I know we have end of month reviews, but like staff doing just upping the ante on like staff training and motivational and empowerment sort of training as well, because I think a lot of it is just up in here, and I think sometimes we spend so much of our life at work, it has to be like the environment has to be so, and I think if you can elevate people on a mindset level just to get them to rewire in a positive way, not that our staff are by any means negative, I don't mean it like that, just so that by default we're always just falling into a place of like positivity as much as we can.
Things happen, don't they, in your life where we can always aim to be the most positive people that we want, but there are certain life events that happen that might affect us, right? And we're always just there to help each other,
and it's
get through it together.
It's having that emotional intelligence. I always tell my team, if you've got something going on or whatever, take a moment, just go and grab a coffee, take that time, that space just to go to clear your head, come back into the room. And because we're salespeople, right, we have to be switched on, we have to give people our best, and that takes energy and effort. And when we're sometimes like at 60%, we might not be able to always give 100, and that's okay. We just have to be mindful that we have a duty of care to even the people in our office. If I come in like really what's that going to do to the space? We need to be. I listened to something the other day. It was called "I have to be a energy leader." Like in the office, you have to elevate everyone.
And lift people up, yeah. And that was one of the things also working in the corporate side of agency, is I would speak to some of my colleagues, and people were struggling in certain ways. Maybe they were a bit burnt out, working quite long hours, but these things were never addressed, not really from senior management.
Swept under the rug.
It's just, are you hitting your target? And that's one thing that I was really mindful of when I set up Hemmingford's, was that if we do employ people, you notice things, don't just turn a blind eye towards it.
Yeah.
I think that goes with what we do at the moment.
Mental health, isn't it? Ultimately, like you have to.
And you're at work for the majority of your day. You probably see your work colleagues more than maybe you see your family in certain instances.
Yeah.
So it's so important to be able to create that culture where people actually love to come to work, because it can be a huge part of your day. And sometimes I don't want people to just come to work. Obviously, the salary is a massive part of it, but to come to your work to just do something that you don't necessarily like, to take a salary home, isn't going to be very fulfilling.
No, you have to have like a strong sense of purpose, and we try and build that within our company ethos and align personal goals with.
And put the best people in the best in their best positions where they can elevate other people. Yeah, so.
No, it's good. No, I think that was really good. I was going to go into me, but I think let's leave it there, because I think that's a really nice podcast, just to go into a bit of a background of you and you. Yeah.
Love that. So, yeah, we'll carry on churning them out every week, and Rose will be on next week to talk about her life.